What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here, and welcome to our daily show where we discuss the fourth stimulus check update, the next stimulus packages, as there's two of them, as well as what is going on in the world today. In this video, we're going to discuss the new executive order done by President Biden that will put a substantial amount of money in some people's pockets, as well as we're going to hear from the Senate and talk about the fourth stimulus checks as well as the fourth stimulus package. So if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit the like button for us down below. Actually, hit it if you're not new to the channel too. But if you're new to the channel, subscribe down below so you don't miss out on new videos coming out regarding the next round of stimulus, as there is multiple different items on the block for the next stimulus package. First, we will hear from the White House press secretary, Jen Psaki, on a new presidential executive order.
Okay, a couple of items for you at the top. Today, President Biden is issuing an executive order requiring federal contractors to pay a $15 minimum wage to hundreds of thousands of their employees. These workers are critical to the functioning of federal government, from cleaning professionals and maintenance workers to nursing assistants who care for the nation's veterans to cafeteria and other food service workers who ensure we all have healthy and nutritious food to eat, to laborers who build and repair federal infrastructure. The executive order will increase the hourly minimum wage for federal contractors to $15 in new and renewed contracts and contract options starting in January 2022. This increase must be implemented by March 30th, 2022. Continue to index the minimum wage to an inflation measure so it keeps up the cost of living. With the cost of living, eliminate the tipped minimum wage for federal contractors by 2024. Ensure a $15 minimum wage for federal contractors with disabilities, and restore minimum wage protections to outfitters and guides operating on federal lands. Also, as you may remember, and I think this announcement just went out, but President Biden signed a Made in America executive order directing federal agencies to ensure taxpayer dollars supporting American manufacturing. We've been, of course, hard at work delivering on that commitment, and today the president announced the appointment of Celeste Drake as the nation's first Made in America director, which I think is a great title. As Made in America director within the Office of Management and Budget, she will make sure agencies follow the president's ambitious Buy American commitment and will help continue the work to carry out his bold Made in America agenda. Also today, two more items here. Thanks to the American Rescue Plan, the Department of Health and Human Services is announcing the availability of $1 billion for the construction and renovation of community health centers. The funding builds on President Biden's commitment to ensuring equity and access to COVID-19 response efforts and high-quality primary health care services. Community health centers are a critical pipeline, as we've talked about a bit in here before, for our COVID-19 vaccination efforts, and all over the nation's nearly 1,400 Health Resources and Services Administration funded health centers will be eligible for these funds. Finally, following the president's address to the joint session of Congress, we are launching the Getting America Back on Track tour to highlight the successes of the first 100 days in addressing the crises facing our country, vaccinating America to beat the pandemic, more than 200 million Americans to be exact, delivering much needed financial help to American families, making transformative investments to rescue and rebuild our economy, and fundamentally showing the government can deliver for people. We'll also use the tour to take the case directly to the American people about the vital need for action on the jobs plan and the families plan, which the president will be laying out in detail tomorrow evening, so we can make badly needed investments in the financial security of middle-class families, as well as in jobs, growth, and competitiveness. After the joint session, the President, Vice President, First Lady, Second Gentleman, and Cabinet members will fan out across the country. On Thursday, as you know, the President and First Lady will travel to Georgia, and the Vice President will go to Baltimore. On Friday, the President will travel to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The Vice President will go to Ohio, and the Second Gentleman will head to North Carolina. They will be traveling, of course, next week as well, and we will announce additional stops then.
So multiple executive orders there coming from the president. Number one, President Biden names trade expert Celeste Drake as the Made in America director, which is the initiative to steer more federal dollars to U.S. manufacturers and producers And Drake will be responsible for ensuring the federal procurement process rewards US based businesses, including small companies and minority entrepreneurs. Her office will be based out of the Office of Management and Budget. In addition to that, another presidential executive order to, I believe it's hundreds of thousands of workers, to raise the federal contractor minimum wage to $15 an hour. President Biden on Tuesday signed an executive order raising the minimum wage for federal contractors to $15 an hour by March 2022. At that time, the order will result in a 37% raise for federal contractors, making the current contract minimum, which is $10.95, and setting their salary at over double the regular statutory federal minimum wage, which has been stuck at $7.25 since 2009. And yeah, the move would affect hundreds of thousands of workers, according to a senior administration official. In addition to that, that's $15 an hour for those people. We have a bipartisan bill in the works right now from the Senate, from Republican Senator Mitt Romney and Democratic Senator Kirsten Sinema, although they both lean towards the middle and not like far right or far left. They both have a bipartisan bill with other senators on board for a minimum wage, although the details have not fully been released yet. We're expecting their bill to be about $11 an hour. This is because we know that they pretty much can't pass a $15 an hour minimum wage nationwide at this point because they tried to pass it in the third stimulus check package and it failed for two different reasons. Number one, the Senate parliamentarian ruled that it cannot be in the package and pass with the budget reconciliation process. The reconciliation process has to affect the federal budget because it's called the budgetary reconciliation process. And as we know, the reconciliation process has a whole different set of rules in there. As well, number two, as they actually voted on it in the Senate to try to pass it through an amendment, and it only got 42 votes, much short of the 60 that will be required to pass a bill without the budgetary reconciliation process, which requires only 51 votes. So the $15 an hour minimum wage was raised by President Biden because it regards federal contractors and he has authority over that. But for the rest of the country, it doesn't look like they'll be able to do it. But I do think they'll be able to raise the minimum wage to around $11 an hour, maybe a little bit lower, maybe a little bit higher. But I think that will be the target mark. And when we'll see that bill here, well, I'll keep you up to date. We just had the bill like announced like within the last week or so. So hopefully they get moving on that. You know, if you make minimum wage right now, this would be about a 50% increase. You would go from $7.25 to around 11 would be a 50% around 50% increase when it goes up to that. Now, remember, almost all minimum wage increases typically don't go up instantly. They go up by the year. So you'll be making about a dollar or two more per year for a couple years until it gets to that full, say, $11 an hour. President Biden will be speaking later today with a national address to Congress announcing kind of the first part of the second part of the infrastructure package. Remember, there's the first part of the infrastructure package is the physical part. It's called the American Jobs Plan. It focuses on physical infrastructure like roads and bridges and fixing water pipes and things like that. That's called the American Jobs Plan. It will create millions of jobs for people to do all that work and probably other administrative jobs and stuff like that in there. And then the second part is where most of or all of the stimulus is going to be called the American Families Plan. And while we have a lot of different items that can and or will be in that next package. Number one is a fourth stimulus check. We have almost 100 Democrats from the House and the Senate already pushing for not even just a fourth stimulus check, but for monthly recurring stimulus checks until at least the pandemic is over. So remember, Democrats are likely going to pass this package on their own through that reconciliation process. So they'll only need to negotiate amongst the Democrats themselves and not with the Republicans. That's what they did with the third stimulus check package when they included the $1,400 for adults, $1,400 for children, and $1,400 for adult dependents, which was the largest stimulus checks for all three groups. In fact, for children, that was more than double what we got before. And for adult dependents and college student dependents, they didn't even get checks before. So the Democrats raised that third stimulus check in three different areas for all three groups. They also increased the child stimulus checks, the other ones, the child tax credits to $3,000 to $3,600. Those are going to start paying out monthly payments in July, which is about 2 months from now, as the IRS is setting up a portal to pay you that money early. Normally, you wouldn't get that money until this year's tax return. So next year, April 15th or somewhere around there when you get your refund. The IRS is setting up a program to pay that monthly $250 per month for children that are over the age of 6 through 17, $300 per month for children under the age of 6. This is like the largest stimulus plan or package provision yet. So, and in this next package, we're expecting them to increase that. That's only been passed for 1 year to 20, just for this year, 2021. We're expecting them to increase it to at least 2025. Although the House Democrats, I believe it was the House Democrats, just introduced a bill yesterday to make it permanent. And permanent would mean forever in perpetuity until it's changed by a future administration. So we could see a Republican president win in 2024, and then they could come in and change that law. But really, remember, these laws are really not made by the presidents. Like they are, because the president kind of, especially the Democrats, are probably putting a little bit more authority on the president than we maybe seen in the past. But in reality, the stimulus checks and stimulus packages and bills themselves come from Congress. They have to pass the House and the Senate, and then it goes to the president. And like 99% of the time, the president signs the bill. There's only like 1% of the time or something like that that a president will veto a bill. A president will only veto a bill when they're completely against it. In fact, we've seen that right in former President Donald Trump's like last month in office for the National Defense Authorization Act. He vetoed it, and for the first time in his whole presidency, they veto override it. So when you veto a bill, it can go back to the House. It goes back to the House and Senate, and they need a 67% vote margin. Yes, 67% of people voting yes to override the president's veto. And that actually happened for the first time and the only time underneath former President Donald Trump. So that shows you how rarely that happens and also how hard it is to get 67% of votes. Remember, in the Senate, you need 60% of votes, which is much, much higher. I know it might not seem that much higher, but remember, you only need 67% to get a presidential override, and that's rarely, rarely done. So, getting rid of the filibuster is something the Democrats want to do, and that would make it so that only 50%, or actually 51%, of votes would be needed in the Senate to pass a bill. That is how the House of Representatives already is. The Senate isn't like that because of a filibuster rule, which really is kind of misconstrued. The rule's been around for a while, but it's kind of changed its form. It used to be just a talking filibuster where you only could delay a bill that had less than 60 votes by physically standing up there and talking about it. And as soon as you were done talking, as soon as you left the room, then your filibuster was over, and then they could pass the bill if they had the 50 to 51 votes. I say 50 because if it's a 50-50 tie, then the tiebreaker vote will go to the vice president, which is in this case Kamala Harris, who then counts as the 51st vote. Remember, the Senate right now is 50 Democrats, 50 Republicans. So it's really, you only need 50 votes, and then you get that tiebreaker vote from the vice president, who in this case is Kamala Harris. And that's why the Democrats have control of the Senate, even though it's a 50-50, because she's the tiebreaker vote, which gives that vote to the Democrats. Now, later on today, when President Biden has this speech, here's what I fully expect to happen. Okay. I expect him to talk about several different things that they're going to put in this American Families Plan. But I expect that to be a starting baseline. Okay. I expect there to not be several things. In fact, I really expect that they're going to add the stimulus check in later. And this is exactly what happened with the second stimulus check, because remember, Congress is the one who passes these bills. And we have Congress pushing for a fourth stimulus check already, and they can add in anything they want. And I think the further away we get from the third stimulus check, the more and more likely it grows that they will add in a fourth stimulus check, at least a fourth, if not the monthly reoccurring checks. Remember, we already have two different bills, one from the Senate. Senator Ed Markey and Elizabeth Warren are the co-authors, are pushing President Biden for $2,000 monthly stimulus checks that would go until the pandemic is declared over. This is the bill from the Senate already for monthly stimulus checks to be included in this next infrastructure package. And the bill from the House of Representatives, which is a one-time $2,000 stimulus check, and would go with $1,000 monthly recurring stimulus checks every single month until 1 year after the pandemic is over. So I really think that if we see that they don't initially include a fourth stimulus check, I expect all of these different senators and Democrats and House representatives to then step up and create the support and the momentum to get that added in the package before all is said and done. Remember, I expect what's going to be in there. Well, first of all, when anything that is announced can be negotiated up, down, out, or in of the package. And remember, it's the lawmakers, it's the people from the House of Representatives and the people from the Senate that have to pass this bill before it even goes to the president to sign. The president signing is just the last step of the process. So I fully expect that a lot of the items that they're not going to include, we will see. And the more items that get more support and more push and momentum, the more likely we'll see them. Remember, the second stimulus check package was added in just days before they passed the bill. They originally announced that package with no stimulus check at all. And then we had the outcry from people in Congress. We had Republican Senator Josh Hawley and independent slash Democratic Senator Bernie Sanders. He's technically registered as an independent, but we all know that he's a Democrat. And they both pushed for a $1,200 second stimulus check. And Ron Johnson from the Senate said, no, I object, because they tried to do it through an up-down vote at the last minute. But then we know that the package got delayed, and they basically, the support and the momentum and the outcry was just too much. And they knew that they had to put a second stimulus check in that package. But they also knew that they were negotiating with the Republicans at that point. So what they needed to do, the Republicans said, we're not spending more than $1 trillion. Okay, so they're like, well, we can't spend more than $1 trillion, but we need to add these second stimulus checks in there. So they took the money away from states and cities, which was $160 billion, and gave it to the people. States and cities got nothing. The last time they got money was the first package, and they did end up getting it in the third package as well, which will actually create some statewide and county-wide stimulus checks and stimulus programs, like we just seen California pass a $600 stimulus check to 6 million of their residents. We've seen Maryland and New Mexico both as well pass statewide stimulus checks to low-income people from their states. We'll be seeing a lot more of that in the future as they start to get their money from the third stimulus check package. We also could see the SSI and the Social Security increases added into this package if they're not there at the beginning. Remember, the momentum, the push for free college. We're going to see what's in there at the beginning, but I honestly expect whatever's in there at the beginning to be just the starting point. And then the momentum and the push is really the most important part. I can't stress that enough, because again, that's even how we got the second stimulus check. And the second stimulus check really led to the third stimulus check, because then at the time we had former President Donald Trump, who was president, saying these $600 stimulus checks are not enough. they should be 2,000. There should be an additional 1,400. And we know, well, Mitch McConnell let that bill die, the Cash Act. So we didn't get it then, but we did get the same $1,400 once now President Biden came into office. So momentum and push is everything. Is everything. So I expect this package to kind of be the starting point, and really that's how. Remember, there's been 6 packages passed, 5 underneath former President Donald Trump, and 1 on Biden, and they're all passed by momentum. If something doesn't have a lot of momentum, it's not going to be included and it's not going to be a pass. If there's not a lot of people talking about it, a lot of people pushing for it, it's very unlikely it'll be included. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And we're going to see the momentum and the push for probably certain items, whatever they may be, here in the near future, to be added into this package once President Biden announces kind of the baseline of what will be in this package. They also could take things out. Remember, they had to take out the $15 an hour minimum wage in the third package. They took out the money for states and cities and gave it to you with the second stimulus check. So they can do that stuff. That's all part of the negotiation phase, which likely will be done just between the Democrats, and they'll likely pass this bill through the reconciliation process. So I will keep you up to date. Don't miss any videos today because there's going to be big news about what's going to be in the plan, and then President Biden's speech, and then we'll discuss it. And then after that, we'll see the momentum and the push for, we got to add in this item. We got to add in this item. We got to add in this item. And remember, they don't really need to negotiate it with Mitch McConnell at all or the Republicans because they're going to pass this bill through the reconciliation process. There's honestly just no way Republicans are going to come on board for this stimulus package. They weren't on board for the third one. Remember, not a single Republican voted yes on the third stimulus check package. So they're for sure not going to vote yes on the fourth stimulus package. They're just not. It's not me politics or picking sides. It's really just the reality. If not a single Republican voted yes on the third stimulus check package to give you a third check, even though that initially came from the idea of former President Donald Trump, who's a Republican, if they didn't vote yes for that package, they're for sure not going to vote yes for this next package. So they're going to have to pass it through the reconciliation process, which is actually kind of good for stimulus because they don't need to negotiate with Republicans. Republicans, if they did, they'd probably want it to be $1 trillion or less, which is what they want from the physical infrastructure package. That could be negotiated on. That really doesn't affect stimulus too much. It does affect our country because it's the infrastructure of our country. So we'll see what happens. I'll keep you up to date. Remember, next videos today come out at 3 p.m., 8 p.m., and 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't miss any episodes because we're going to have a big day today and following with the momentum and the push afterwards. So if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss out on new updates, and click the bell icon that appears after subscribing to all notifications to get reminder notifications for the first 3 videos of the day. The 11 p.m. video, you just got to remember to show up at that time. You can click this video here to watch my newest stimulus check video next. And this video over here teaches you how to start your own business selling products on the Amazon FBA platform. I've had dozens of students who have already replaced their 9-to-5 income by selling products on Amazon, which me and my wife do as well. And we also teach people how to do that as well. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next video.